Hello everyone! Today I'm going to be doing a deck profile, this time on the Nirvana OverDress post set 2 for OverDress. I didn't do a deck profile for set 1 because every deck is essentially going to look the same, so I decided to just wait on it until set 2 where pretty much the deck now differentiates. So no more wasting time, and I'm going to explain how this deck functions. This deck essentially functions playing by the OverDress mechanic, basically riding on a rear guard. And with the new cards, you can also now do Superior OverDress in mid-battle, giving you extra multi-attack. It also focuses around a specific grade 0 named Trickstar, which is basically your starting point. But in that, let's begin. So we start off with the Ride deck. Personal preference, but I decided to stick with the Sunrise Egg because that extra draw can be very helpful. And then for the grade 1, I chose Reno. Well, because it's part of the archetype, so obviously you have to run it. And when a Ryu, which is the grade 2, rides on top of it, you can call a Trickstar from your deck, so it sets things up. And second skill, it doesn't really matter because you're only running one copy for the Vanguard skill. And then now to Ryu, when your Nirvana, your grade 3, rides on top of it, you can Soul Blast 1 to add one regular Vairina from your deck to your hand. This is actually one of the reasons why many people would run the Trickstar as a starter, so they could Soul Blast the Trickstar and then use Nirvana skill, because Nirvana has a skill that can call from the drop zone. But the extra draw helps, which is why I still run Sunrise Egg. And now to the grade 3, your Chakabati Divine Dragon Nirvana, which has a once per turn skill where you can discard one card to call one grade 0 from your drop zone, which is normally going to be your Trickstar. And then it has a second skill where when it attacks, you can counter blast 1. This card, along with all your overdress units, gets plus 10k. Keep in mind, they don't have to be in overdress state. So if you just normal call them without overdressing, they also get the plus 10k. So as long as they have the overdress ability, you got that power plus. But most of the time, you're going to be overdressing with them anyway, just letting you know. But that first skill, like I said, the combo where you can make Trickstar as your starter and then use Ryu to Soul Blast the Trickstar, which currently I'm using Sunrise Egg, to add the Vairina to your hand, and then you can use Nirvana to discard to call back the now Soul Blasted Trickstar to do another overdress. So there is that, but like I said, that extra draw is very helpful, which is why I still consider Sunrise Egg. And now to the main deck itself, because Persona Rise is so important, well, not in this deck, but Persona Rise is always very helpful. You obviously want to run the extra copies of Nirvana. And then next, for my other grade 3, I decided to run Vairina Valiente, which you can overdress this on top of Trickstar or a card that has been on overdress state. You can overdress this on top of those Vairina cards that have already been overdressed, so that's nice because of its skill where it could get 5k power for every original dress, aka the cards under the overdress card, and it's on both players' turn. So 5k for each one. And in normal circumstances, you're going to be overdressed one time on a Trickstar with one card, and then you're going to overdress this card on top of that one, so it'll be 23k, and it will be permanent. And it also has a second skill where it's a once per turn. When an attack hits, you can discard one card from your hand and counterblast to stand this card back up. So it has that Overlord kind of effect. It's just too bad it doesn't have drive checks. That would have been nice. But this is only here to bring some pressure. I have actually dropped this down to 2 before, but the more I play it, I actually prefer 3 because of the power and the pressure. So that's it for my grade 3 lineup. I did test it out that new grade 3 that can superior call the Trickstar from your drop zone after when it attacks and retires your opponent's rear guard. The only problem with that card is that it costs a Soul Blast as well. And Soul is very important for your new Vairina card, hence why I decided not to run that. But it is a good combo card to get your multi-attack. But since that soul is quite important and every soul counts, I decided not to run it. But anyway, continue to my grade 2 lineup. You of course have to run the regular Vairina because as much as this card is not that great, it's made with your ride line, so you just got to play it. One extra copy just in case it's at the damage zone, but its skill is when it attacks while overdressed state, it gets plus 10k. And then you can also pay a Soul Blast 2 to retire one of your opponent's rear guards, but you're not going to do that. And then to continue off, you of course have to run the 4 copies of Vairina Arcs. When you use it for overdress, you can counterblast 1 to draw 2 cards and then plus 5k. No reason not to run 4 because that extra draw is very essential for the deck, especially because you're going to be riding on top of a rear guard essentially. And now to the new card, basically your big finisher. Vairina Elgar. So its skill is one, it overdresses itself on top of Trickstar. That's pretty much every overdress. And it has a skill from hand where after when your Trickstar attacks, it is a 5k unit, so this sucks. But if you Persona Ride, it will be 15k, so you can actually pull this off. You can Soul Blast 2, Superior OverDress this card from your hand, and Countercharge 1. So yeah, this is going to be your countercharger for the deck. Counterblast has been an issue for this deck, and not having enough pressure attacks was also another issue. So this card actually helps out with that, especially when you're using Nirvana as well to Persona Ride for that extra power. And you can always have a situation where you try to check this card along with a trigger, so you could give a Trickstar some power, like it's a Raging Form Dragon, and because you dry check this, you can still win the game that way. Yes, it is still a 10k power, but luckily it has a second skill, where while at overdress state, on both players' turns, it gets plus 10k power and 10k shield. So it's a 15k interceptor as well, with a 20k attack. So that power problem should not be much of an issue unless there's a defensive trigger. Well, like I said before, this is more of a finisher card than anything, because I mainly use this card for the Superior Overdress and that extra power, usually on the Persona Ride turn. Now, like I said, there is that new grade 3 monk that you can use where, since it's a grade 3, it has 13 power, you can attack with it and then use its skill to call the Trickstar from the drop zone. And if you somehow can give it extra power to hit your opponent's Vanguard, you can now overdress this on top of it. So then you got 3 rear guards attack just like that. And of course, there's always the Raging Form Dragon scenario where you can just drive check this card and then you can do a Superior Overdress afterwards. Yeah, run this at 4 for being your big finisher, essentially. So that's it for the grade 2 lineup. Now to the grade 1 lineup. First, I run the Tribash. I'm eventually going to take this out because it has an attack hit skill where when it boosts an attack hit, you can counterblast 1, search for 1 card with the same card name as your Vanguard and add to your hand. It adds some pressure, and it's a Persona Ride searcher, but I just do not like its attack hit, and there might be other cards that might be useful. I have considered running the grade 1 that can give extra power to a grade 0 boosted unit, but I find the Persona Ride very helpful too, and that pressure, so I decided to stick with this. But you can run that new card as well. I am considering replacing this for that. Next, I run this new grade 1 Tokachirashi, which, if you discard it during your turn bar any reason, so meaning you can discard it for your ride deck, or even Nirvana, you put it to soul. Like I said, every soul is very essential because Vairina Elgar is essentially your main finisher, your main pressure card, your defensive card, your counter charger, and all that. And it costs us 2 soul blasts, so building up every soul really helps. Hence why I still did not play the monk. And then I play Blaze Maiden Marin. Now this one, there's people who don't play it, there's people who do, but I decided to play it because, one, it can be a booster, because it has a skill where when your overdressed unit attacks, you can put this to soul and give that unit 5k power. The important part is that it puts itself to soul when the overdressed unit attacks, meaning that you can use this card as a booster beforehand, before you use the overdressed unit to attack. And it also includes an extra soul along with it because every soul helps. And to me, this is a little more consistent than using the new Stealth Dragon because that one has to be discarded to put itself to soul, and you're not going to always do that every single turn based on my experience of playing the deck. So having a card that can boost for that extra soul and power can be very nice. The only gripe I have about this card is that it's a 6k body. And then for my last grade 1, you of course have to run the 4 PGs because PGs are PGs. And that's it for the grade 1 lineup. And then to the main card of the deck, which is the grade 0, you have to run the 4 Trickstar. No matter what, you have to run 4 in this deck because everything starts with Trickstar. It's the egg that hatches and evolves. For trigger lineup, you obviously have to run the over trigger. And then you can put your trigger lineup how you really like for the rest. So I decided to run 4 crits and the 3 fronts. The fronts can be very helpful, especially because usually Nirvana is going to be the very first attack as you want to use its skill to power up your overdress units that are usually going to be in the front row. And then there's also Elgar that can overdress on top of Trickstar after attacks and for that counter charge as well. So you're kind of guaranteed the Nirvana as well with that. And the front trigger, the new one, also has an extra 5k shield value to it. Now you could go for 7 crits for that big pressure instead, but it's really up to you. And then I also go for the 4 draws because every draw helps. and finally the 4 heals. So that's it for this deck profile. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Had a lot of fun playing this deck, especially with now the new Superior OverDress with Elgar, the extra multi-attack, and also OverDress itself is a very interesting concept. Well, not really, because riding on a rearguard has been something I've been thinking about for quite some time, and they finally delivered with OverDress, but I do like pseudo-Digimon-like design, so there is that as well. And also, I see a lot of potential with this deck in the future, especially with the next set where we got a Centaur like Vairina, which I hope it's a grade 4 because I want to see some grade 4 units in OverDress. And hopefully it does the Superior OverDress during mid-battle just to get some extra attack, you know, just to make it a little more threatening. And besides, description-wise it says further evolution of Vairina, so it could go further than Valiente, so why not? But on that, I really hope you guys enjoyed this deck, and give me suggestions down below on what other changes I could make. Currently, I like the deck how it is right now, but like other suggestions I already made, there was a new grade 30 monk that can call the Trickstar during battle for the multi-attack, but the soul can be an issue, or that grade 1 that could get extra power to grade 0. But if there's any other suggestions that I missed, go ahead and put them down. But on that, have a nice day.